So in terms of what's happening today, here's what you came for. First of all, when it comes to tariffs, or really any negotiation, Trump said it himself. We could do whatever we want. This means there's no hard deadlines, there's no set strategy to negotiate, and if matters need to escalate for the sake of getting a deal done, even if it's done very publicly without hesitation, so be it. That's why when recently asked about the July 9th tariff deadline for global tariffs, Trump said that we could extend it, we could make it shorter, effectively allowing whatever he wants to happen. I say this because even though he openly walks away from tariff negotiations or throws out tariff numbers, it doesn't mean those tariffs will actually happen. It doesn't mean that they will stay in effect. And it doesn't mean that they will even be enforced. Like by now it seems like the general consensus is that he'll throw out tariff numbers, he'll use it as a negotiation, he'll pause and postpone if the deadline isn't reached, and then he'll work out a resolution before things break. In fact, when it comes to investing, all of this feeds into what's called the taco strategy. Okay, I know this is not going to be taken too seriously, but some investors have made a ton of money following the acronym Trump always chickens out. And if that sounds confusing, it's investing on the philosophy that Trump tends to make some intense threats against trading partners and then pulls back on his position once confronted with an adverse reaction from within the market. Now, on the one hand, it's said that it's easy to underestimate the amount of harm that this negotiation style has done, not just to other countries, but also to the United States. Although, on the other hand, this is a textbook strategy from his book, The Art of the Deal, which starts with an extreme ask using leverage and urgency while pressure is applied publicly without losing control of the narrative. All of which is currently playing out in real time. Plus, if you invested based off this philosophy, you would have made a ton of money buying the dips throughout March and April. And whether or not this is Trump chickening out or really just negotiating the art of the deal is really up to you to decide, either way. But the point still remains. Overall, the market does not believe that tariffs are going to have a long-standing impact. Even though the US dollar is down compared to other currencies, investors are still bullish. And it doesn't appear as though Trump would risk damaging the entire economy permanently. But then again, I could be totally wrong. Now, in terms of my own thoughts, I've said this before a few months ago, but it's worth repeating because so far, this has done nothing but come true. Trump starts by threatening tariffs by a certain date, the market goes down, but eventually starts to recover. On the days tariffs go into effect, the market plunges, but 24 to 48 hours later, an agreement is reached that gives an extension or exclusion on past tariffs, the market goes back up, and then the process repeats itself when tariffs go back into effect until once again, another agreement is reached. In this case, from Canada's perspective, they want tax fairness, where big tech isn't able to profit from Canadian users without paying a tax. But from the United States perspective, they see this as a direct tax on American companies, especially since most Canadian companies wouldn't fall under this category. But big picture, it's become clear that Trump walking out is purely a negotiation strategy. And wouldn't you know it, the breaking news you've all been waiting for, it's working. That's right, just hours before the digital service tax was supposed to be going into effect, Canada completely rescinded it in anticipation of a mutually beneficial comprehensive trade arrangement with the United States. Or in other words, they're pausing it again after saying they weren't going to do that a few weeks ago. However, even though this is good news for the United States and partly why big tech is up today, it's important to mention that the digital service taxes are not off the table entirely and are still subject to ongoing negotiations that are going to happen over the next few months. Not to mention, other countries throughout the European Union have still floated the idea of implementing their own taxes. So rest assured, this will all be incorporated into future trade deals. That's why I believe that almost everything we publicly see is just for show. And our upcoming tariff deadline of July 9th will turn into another negotiation. Long term, however, I do believe that there will be a point where a digital services tax will be enacted globally, but as of right now, this has just gotten delayed after delayed, and it's unclear when eventually this might happen. This is why I just keep buying the dips, I keep investing as usual, and if the market goes down, great, it's a way to buy in even cheaper, and if it goes up, then that's great too. Either way, it's a win-win. A perfect example of this is that stocks have just hit yet another brand new all-time high. Overall, investors are pretty optimistic for trade agreements, and the growing consensus is that all of this is pretty much self-inflicted. So if we need to walk back on certain items, There's really nothing stopping the US from doing so. Essentially, the lesson here is just not to get scared off by headlines, and just know that long term, everything should eventually just work itself out. On top of that, there's also talks today about Jerome Powell soon being replaced while being accused of lying to Congress over a $2.5 billion Palace of Versailles renovation. And if we get another Fed chair like Scott Bessent, then Trump could also get his way with lower interest rates, which, yeah, could completely send the market higher again on the basis of a lot more free money. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, and if you subscribe, I promise I'll keep you up to date. Although keep in mind, I am just a random dude on YouTube making videos in a half-converted garage, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. So if I've left anything out or I missed anything, please let me know down below in the comments, and I will do my best to read and reply to as many of you as I can. So thanks so much. As always, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and until next time.